The day before Thanksgiving in 1971, a man identifying himself as Dan Cooper bought a plane ticket from Portland to Seattle. He hijacked the plane, claiming he had a bomb in his briefcase, and demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. He jumped out of the plane with the money and the bomb somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, never to be seen again. The FBI claims to have investigated over 1,000 people, including dozens of deathbed confessions. In 2016, 45 years after the hijacking, the FBI suspended its investigation of the case. While the FBI is no longer looking for DB Cooper, there is a community of people who are trying to solve the case on their own. Welcome to the Cooper Vortex. In this episode, we're lucky to be joined by a former middle school foosball champion, an amateur magician and MMA fighter. Literally beat LeBron James in basketball in 1991. He was the face of the University of Akron in 2004, an unapologetic crazy cat person and all-around nice guy. Enjoy this episode with my good friend, Brandon Arnold. Brandon, let's start with how old are you?
43.
43, so you don't have a memory of the skyjacking when it happened.
No, I was born in 81, so I'm 10 years after the skyjacking.
Were you born on November 24th?
No.
Oh, what a missed opportunity.
I know, that would have been fun.
When was the first time you heard about DB Cooper?
I don't know. I mean, I would love to say, oh, I remember watching Unsolved Mysteries and that, but I don't. It came in pieces. And once I got into like podcasts and documentaries, it would come up. And I did eventually see the Unsolved Mysteries episode, but the thing that really kicked it off was the TV show Prison Break, where they had the DB, Charles Westmoreland. He was DB Cooper with the cat. And I'm like, it was a good show. I enjoyed the show. I watched the show and I was thinking, this sounds like a real story. And then I came upon DB Cooper again. I'm like, wait, this is a real story. So I went back to that Prison Break and found so many flaws with the facts of the case with that. Like, he gave him, to prove that he was DB Cooper, he gave him $100 bill.
I guess it turns out Prison Break isn't a documentary after all.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't even, it's not 100, no. But so then it was just mysteries. I love mystery podcasts, and I would come across DB Cooper time and again. And then I was just searching for DB Cooper. And the last one, it was a good one, a podcast called Infamous America. Chris Wimmer did a podcast about DB Cooper. And it's the same thing like you always say. It's a 1-hour podcast where they go over the basic shit, and McCoy, Rackstraw, Kenny. And then he had a friend of his on to add to the conversation. And I forget this guy's name, but he said, you know, me and you, our job is just to tell a concise story about DB Cooper. But there's another podcast out there that's a deep dive. It's called the Cooper Vortex with Darren Schaefer. And this is deep dive stuff. He's interviewing this person. And I'm like, what is this? This is what I need. And by the time I found your podcast, you must have been on episode, I don't know, 50 or something. So I just binged it all the way through. And that's when I got sucked into the vortex, when I just binged right through.
Here's a question that somebody asked me recently that I thought was interesting. How do you know when you're in the vortex?
When your family and friends stop or start telling you to quit talking about DB Cooper so much, like you can't talk about DB Cooper to anyone.
You can't. It's weird.
And if you say anything about the tie, what do you think it was from a thrift store? Maybe that'll get their goat a little bit. But then, like, well, you know, the titanium antimony particles, right? And they're like, okay, we're done here. We're going back to Thanksgiving dinner or whatever. And we're done talking to Brandon about DB Cooper. So once you're like that concerned, like that's your cocktail party chit chat, like, you want to talk about DB Cooper? No? Okay. Right. Right. God, I'm like, because I just assume everybody does, but that's not real. That's not real life. Nobody wants to. It's just us.
Why is that the people in the vortex are completely consumed by this, but if you're not in the vortex, it's seemingly uninteresting?
Well, that's the problem of being in the vortex is we're frustrated with everybody else for seeming uninteresting to them because we don't understand why you don't. This is interesting. Why don't you think this is interesting? And we're like trying to bully them, like he was never caught. It's the only unsolved skyjacking, blah blah blah. And they're like, yeah, that's interesting, but we're gonna go get another drink or something like that. Like, and then maybe at the next party, oh, Brandon, any update on DB Cooper? And I'll start talking about DB Cooper, and then my cousin will chime in and say, oh yeah, that got solved. Didn't you hear about that a couple weeks ago? It got solved. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, because he saw a link from an article about Marla talking about Uncle LD, and he thinks that's it was Uncle LD. He saw an article and he thinks that's solved. I'm like, yeah, I know that story. It's not solved, but no one's gonna bother listening to me. So whatever. Back to whatever you guys want to talk about. So once that's in the vortex is when you want to talk about it to everyone that you're around, but you're the only one that wants to talk about it.
That's well said, Brandon.
Mm.
That is well said. You know you're in the vortex when you want to talk about it, but nobody around you wants to talk about it anymore.
It's when you're sucked in. Yeah.
The vortex is a self-selecting group. You choose to participate in this. What do you think it is about us that we have in common that drew us to this?
I don't know because it's such an eclectic group. None of us are the same in any way, like personality wise, interest wise, jobs, money, you know. Some people are really successful. Some people are scraping by, obsessed with it. Some people have different skills in different areas, you know. And we're all different. Like at CooperCon, you meet these people, there's an instant kinship, but you have nothing in common with them on like a personality level. And so I don't know what it is. It's just, it's a weird tick. It's a niche thing that doesn't translate to any sort of personality type or anybody. Like it's amazing because you can anyone, it's for anybody, no matter where you're from, what you think about anything else, politics, financial, and you can still argue about DB Cooper. And so I take every chance I can to do that.
Do you think that the vortex is a welcoming place to newcomers or outsiders?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, it's mostly I mean, it's really thanks to Eric with the Facebook group and then because I know a lot of the groups. I don't know anything about the drop zone or the DP Cooper forum back in the day. I understand it was ripe with vitriol and but the Facebook group is welcoming. Well, until lately, but even still, like that's like someone will say something stupid about hiding on the plane or whatever, and then you'll have someone like Ryan Burns take time out of his day to write a two-paragraph response to some noob about why that's not accurate, but being very nice about it. And so there are people that will do that. They're like anyone that I've seen come into the vortex, no one's yelling at them. Like, welcome. Once you're serious about a thought, then we'll shit all over you. But other than that, I really think it is a welcoming. I think a lot of people appreciate that there's a community trying to solve a niche mystery like this, and the more the merrier.
I feel the same way. All hands on deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we obviously could use some more people looking at this because we've only had, 52, 53 years and we're not any farther.
Are we though? I mean, we have to be a little bit farther. We've got to.
How much farther do you think we are than we were November 25th
November 25th, what
of
year?
of 71?
I would say a little bit farther, maybe just a little bit. Um, we got the
Because you
tie.
want to believe a bunch of work has been done.
Well, we got the tie. We have the Tina Bar money. I mean, that's something. We have to be closer. We have the internet. We have technology. Like, we have to be closer. Even if it doesn't seem like we probably are. But it might not be that much closer, but it's got to be closer.
Well, since you mentioned it, let's just start with the toughest subject. How'd the money get
Okay.
to Tina Bar?
Oh, well, yeah, I know I have a pretty plausible explanation. I know that's nobody wants to touch that. Everyone thinks it's a big mystery, but I think it's pretty simple. Um, my theory is flew out, pack of money, flew out, landed in a tree somewhere. Could have been up there for years in that tree. One day a tornado came, a storm, wind blew it, landed somewhere, landed on a dead animal. Then some bird came picking at it, picked it up, flew it somewhere, dropped it because it was too heavy, landed on a container ship that happened to be going down the Columbia River. Now that money is on the top of the container ship on the Columbia heading to Tina Bar. Maybe the wind blows it off. The wake of the container ship, the waves send it to Tina Bar, washes up on the shore, and it just gets buried over a couple weeks. I think that money was there for less than a month max. It just got naturally buried so that when Brian Ingram, happy birthday, Brian Ingram, by the way, when Brian Ingram you dug that fire pit, it just happened to be right there. And it was all a mess because it had been eight years, 9 years, right? But I know that's not exactly Occam's razor, but it explains everything, explains the diatoms. Unless another theory is, and I love Tom, but what if what if Tom K is wrong about the diatoms? What if he made a typo in his analysis? Oh, it wasn't actually spring diatoms or whatever that year. Then it blows it up even more. Like we're all digging into this impossible scenario because of these diatoms, but we're relying on Tom. What if he was wrong about something? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But that's my Tina Bar theory is that it fell off a container ship at some point and washed up naturally. I don't think it was buried. I think the peanut bar burial theory is the most ridiculous thing ever
Why is it the most ridiculous thing ever?
because it who is going to go bury money on the beach of a river and expect it to be there when you get back? That's like going to the Bahamas, burying it on the beach of the Bahamas and be like, I'm going to come back next year and just dig it up. No, you know that this is water moving, erosion. It's just not a burial spot.
But what if Cooper wanted the money to be found?
Then he would have not buried it at all. He would have mailed it in with a letter from Clara.
So you're not of the opinion that the Tina Bar was an homage to Tina Mucklow?
No, absolutely not. I think that's silly and ridiculous.
Silly and ridiculous, huh?
Yeah, I think it's far-fetched. It's far-fetched. I think the Dan Cooper comic is a ridiculous connection too.
Why is that?
because it's just such a stretch. You're finding something. I know you love it,
I do love it.
but I never liked it. It never landed for me. It's so random. It's like if someone was a like you do the Tony Hawk thing or the Peter Parker analogy, right? But those are famous people. Like I could see the Tony Hawk thing if it was someone other than Tony Hawk. If it was Dave Klooper, obscure skateboarder from Idaho, and you would find him and you'd be like, oh my gosh, it must be that guy. Like, why did it have to be this obscure Belgian comic book? Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's a reach. That's like finding a football player. Oh, he escaped uh by footballing his way through here. And so he must be a linebacker, and the name was Ryan Evans. And then someone finds a roster from the Chicago Bears in 1978 that was Ryan Evans. And oh, that must be an homage. What are the odds that it wasn't? So that I just maybe, but it's so obscure. Belgian comic. I don't like it. I
You
think
make
it
a
was
good
just a name.
point.
It was just a name. Dan Cooper, Bob, all the copycats just made up a name. Or like authors, you ask an author, like when you come up with a fictional character's name for your book, how do you come up with the name? I flip through the phone book, I find something generic, just whatever, something no one's gonna remember. It was just unfortunate that Dan Cooper happened to be a Belgium skydiving folk hero or whatever.
Yeah, there is some truth to that. Like your Chicago Bears example, I'm sure we could find an athlete with the name Dan Cooper.
If you reach hard enough.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, of course.
Of
This is an
course.
homage to the
Oh,
famous Atlanta Hawks player Dan
yeah,
Cooper.
right, exactly. Yeah, he jumped. And Dan Cooper from the Atlanta Hawks in 1968 won the slam dunk contest when he was in high school or whatever. And oh, he must have went to that high school. Let's track him down. Yeah,
That's a good point. I don't like it because I
I
sort of
know.
agree with it, but
It's a slippery slope. Yeah. You go down the rabbit hole and get misled, you know. That's the only thing. Like you said, are we closer? Sometimes I think maybe we're not because we're going down these slippery slope rabbit holes that are taking us farther away. It's like the telephone game. Oh, the sketch says this, so we're investigating this. And you might be wrong. Like people are wrong about stuff. Like Ryan Burns, I love Ryan Burns, of course, but he's so dead set on this height requirement. Like that's why he got off Braden because Braden's not tall enough. But like the height on an airplane, first of all, just any kind of eyewitness testimony is unreliable. Now you're putting it on an airplane, which is really like a fun house for trying to guess someone's height, right? I
absolutely.
probably look like I'm 7 feet tall. If you put Shaq on an airplane, they'd be like, how tall? He's 10 feet tall. So now they're looking for a 10-foot tall person, but Shaq's only 7'4" or whatever. So oh, he's eliminated. It's not him because the eyewitness said he was 10 feet tall. He's not tall enough. So I think someone like Braden, to me, 5'6" to 6'3", 6'4" is doable. I don't want to disregard people for not matching the height requirement
I'm willing
or
to
the
play a little
sketch.
loosey-goosey with height as well.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. Don't dig your feet in the sand with the height because it's just not reliable.
What do you think happened to Cooper's money?
I
Oh,
think he spent it.
you do think he spent it?
Absolutely spent it. That's what you do with cash. That's what cash is for. It's for spending. Okay. You could go to Davidas Market in North Hill, Akron. They only take cash there, right? Italian market, cash. Drop a couple 20s off, buy your meatballs, your mozzarella. The kids there, they don't know. They're working the old school cash registers. Money goes wherever, gone, gone, gone. Could go overseas. He could have spent it at a casino, any kind of money laundering things. But it just, yeah, that's what you do with cash. It's gone. The odds of a banker or a cashier checking these serial numbers is so ridiculous. It's just not going to happen. And like when you had Arthur Friedberg on, expert, right? Currency expert,
He wrote the book on it.
wrote the book. We're trying to find out if this money could have been spent. Mr. Arthur Friedberg, thank you for coming on. Got one question for you. When when the government destroys currency, do they record the serial numbers?
They
He
didn't
said,
until the mid to late 90s or something like that, and it was only a small fraction of bills that passed through. He didn't give the answer on the show because he wasn't 100% sure. But
yeah, he said, I don't know.
yeah, he got back to me later and
Oh,
they
okay.
checked the serial numbers on bills in the late 90s, but a very small fraction. Like they literally pull a handful out
Yeah.
and
And
do
they
that.
and bills didn't last that long back then because cash was king back then. It now no one uses cash. You have a $20 bill, it'll last forever because no one's handling it. But back then, that's it got destroyed quicker. So by the 90s, okay, you're checking a few. It's all gone by then. I think the money got spent for sure and just got destroyed. And everybody believes that. Larry Carr said that at CooperCon. The money could have got spent. Bill Grinnell said that the money could have got spent. Believes it did. Like that's the rational explanation of what happens to cash back in the 70s and 80s. Friedberg is the only one saying it couldn't have got spent, but he has no explanation for it.
Well, his explanation was the idea that you're going to have over 9,000 bills go into circulation, and not a single one of those bills ever comes up on a flagged transaction was statistically impossible, in his opinion.
Okay. Well, I'll take a bill out of my pocket right now and I'll sign it. I'll do 9,000 of them and I'll send them out into circulation. And if you ever find any one of them, let me know. Do you think that you would?
I probably would not. No.
Nobody would. Oh, post the serial numbers too. You have my permission to post the serial numbers to the newspaper back in the 70s. There was no social media back then. It wasn't like Twitter and Facebook, everyone sharing the serial numbers. No one knew about DB Cooper a month later. So the money just got spent like normal money. That's and if not, like someone's got to have a briefcase of money up in their attic. So that's the other thing. These people that are dying, the suspects, like McCoy, Rackstraw, uh, Gossett, everyone has family that's going to be going through their personal private belongings in the attic. No one's coming up with a DB Cooper confession, no diary. So why not? Like, because the money got spent and he never told anybody about it.
Well, but there are confessions. We have Weber and Recca,
Right.
and
So
Kenny
did we look
Christensen
through?
kind of confessed.
So that's what I'm saying. Did we look through their attic of their old belongings? Did we find a diary, a plane ticket, a bill, anything that would lead to it? No. So they're just fake confessions. So the person that did got rid of all evidence, didn't tell anybody, like Ted Conrad from Cleveland. He just did that. It can be done if you don't tell anybody. And he could be the type of guy. Cooper could be the type of guy, a loner that wouldn't be out for the limelight confessing. I don't know. I'm unsure about that. It's just one possible explanation.
Why do we have so many confessions in this case?
Because it's cool. I confessed. I confessed the other day. No one picked it up though. Yeah, it's fun. Like, of course, no one got hurt. Um, like I looked into my dad originally because fun fact, in 1971, that was the year that my parents met each other. And so I thought, oh, well, where were you? He was like 19 years old. I looked into it. I cleared him. Okay.
All right, I'll
I
check him
cleared
off the
him.
list.
Yeah. Plus, he was too young, right? He was the right height. Yeah, might fit the sketch, but he was 19 years old, way young, right? So whatever. But so it's cool to confess because there's no harm, no foul. It's a fun thing. Like at this point, it really is a good thing. Like I understand it's not a victimless crime. I understand the trauma that Tina and even Bill Mitchell had. But looking back now, would you say that it's done more good than if he didn't? Because if he didn't do that, we wouldn't have the Cooper vein, the security, safety. Um, we we wouldn't have CooperCon, right? We wouldn't have connections. People make friends through the Cooper investigation. You wouldn't have this podcast if it wasn't for Dan Cooper hijacking that plane,
That's
right?
true.
You wouldn't know me. We wouldn't have the fantasy football league if it wasn't for Dan Cooper, or whoever, whatever his real, maybe it was his real name. I don't know. Um, but maybe there's drawbacks too. Maybe if it wasn't for Dan Cooper, maybe Ryan Burns would be a better lawyer because he would have more time to actually work on cases. Then I don't know how he spends so much time on Cooper. Like sometimes I'm like, Ryan, I really admire Ryan. I want him to be my lawyer. But then I'm like, wait a minute. You're spending way too much time on this Cooper shit. You're not spending enough time on my case, you
He's going to
know?
show up to court with one of those binders loosely packed and it'll spill out and it's just pictures of DB Cooper's sketch.
Right, because he's been half-assing your case research, because he
Oh,
was up
yeah.
late talking to Chris Cunningham uh, about tie particles or flight path or whatever. But hey, that's how smart Ryan is. He can do everything. He's can be a successful lawyer. Like that's the type of people that we have in this case and that we get to meet because of Cooper.
It's an
So I'm
interesting thought.
appreciative
I've
of it.
never thought about it that way. Did he do more good by doing this
Yeah, I
than
think at
bad
this
at this
point
point in
he
time?
did. Think of the relationships, the camaraderie of CooperCon, the fun, the economic influx to Portland and Seattle that Eric Eulis brings to the Museum of Flight, the economic uh, burst to the neighborhood. You know, the Uber drivers make a lot of money. I know they made a lot of money when I was there because I didn't stay at the host hotel, thanks to Chris Cunningham, but I had to Uber all over that place, and I've never been out there. It's so far away. So if it wasn't for Cooper, that Museum of Flight would be no, that would still be up and running good. They have a lot of cool stuff there. You didn't go last year, right?
I didn't. I'm pretty sure I'm going this year.
Okay. Yeah. It's a great venue.
All right, speaking of needing a ride, I have one extra seat in my DeLorean. I can put you on flight 305. Do you stop the hijacking or do you go along for the ride?
Uh, well, I would go along for the ride because like what do you mean stop the hijacking? What am I gonna do? I'm not
Before takeoff, be
Rambo.
like, hey, that guy back there, he's about to hijack
Oh,
this.
oh, him, yeah. Oh, everybody look at him, he's weird. No, because if it's like Ted Braden, I'm gonna get my ass kicked or something. Like, why not just go along for the ride? I know everything's gonna be fine, and then I'll be the premier witness. Like, I would talk to him, I would get information out of him. Where you from? Where'd you grow up? What do you think about this? I would just play with him a little bit. And then by the time he bounces, I'd be like, yeah, yeah, I talk to him a lot. I know how to track him down. He's from Wisconsin. Trust me. You know, I saw the matchbook that was from the whatever bar in
Sky Chef.
Wisconsin. The Sky Chef, right. Is there a Sky Chef or the high school diploma? What was
Yeah,
it?
get your degree by mail or
Yeah,
something like that.
priest. It was at a priestly. This the was it a priest school or
No,
just a
it's some sort of
normal?
correspondence school.
Okay,
I want to say it's like ICS or something like that, or ISC.
and that was a real like University of Phoenix for back then.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, yeah. So look into that. You know, need someone like Chris Brower to like dig into that.
Ryan actually texted me a picture that he had managed to acquire both of those matchbooks.
I know. He finds everything. He found the sunglasses, but I don't know if those matchbooks are real. They could just be some other nerd making fake matchbooks just to sell to Ryan Burns on eBay, you
Oh
know.
man, I hope that is exactly what happened.
Well, he can send them off to Tom K and get DNA testing and figure it out, I guess.
I would if I'm getting on to Flight 305, I've said this before, I'm only going to say one thing to Cooper. I'm definitely going to get a good look at him so that I personally remember, but the only thing I'm going to say to Cooper is I'm going to say you're going to get away with this. And then I'm going to go sit down.
Yeah, but that could be a butterfly effect by you saying that. He could be distracted and then forget timing could go off and he doesn't get away with it. Like interfering with something could cause a problem
Or I could tell
in the
him,
time
"Hey,
space continuum.
ask for 3 parachutes. I want to go with you."
Ask for five just to fuck with everybody later.
Would you jump with Cooper?
What the, I mean, I don't know anything about parachutes, but if I trusted him, yeah, this one's gonna work. I don't know. It depends on how much I wanted to get off that plane. If someone was sitting next to me like chewing gum, annoying me, I I would have to get out of there as soon as
Then you would
possible.
consider a night jump into the woods.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, chewing gum. All right. I
Bothers me. I
would
can't be around it. I gotta go.
I would not follow Cooper out of the plane. I'm definitely getting out in Seattle with everyone else.
Yeah, but
See you later.
what
Best
if
of luck.
what if there was Northern Lights that night and when he jumped there was a time anomaly like the movie Frequency with Jim Caviezel and Dennis Quaid where when you jump it maybe that's what happened. He jumped through the Northern Lights and got displaced in a different time period, time slip
Did you
style.
see the Marvel Disney series
Yeah,
Loki?
yeah, yeah. I know. I know
Why
that
is it a
has
daytime jump? Why
I
is it
don't
a
know.
daytime jump?
I don't know.
It always is daytime.
Why do they put Cooper on the other side of the plane when people do reenactments?
In
Like,
Loki, he was on the wrong side of the plane. I'm trying to think of it now.
no, he was on the right side, but he wasn't in the right seat. Like he
Okay.
wasn't in the back. So that was still yeah, but we're just being nerds complaining about the accuracy of where Cooper was. Oh, it was daytime. Was it daytime? Why was he on the left side and then not the back 18E? Well, yeah, like that's just for us to bitch about, but most people don't care about that. So that's just how it goes.
What I was most upset about the Loki thing is that they used that DB Cooper thing to promote the show as a trailer. Like, hey, here's this Loki show coming out. And they did this flash of a 1971 stewardess helping this guy in his seat and then jumping out. And everyone's like,
Um,
oh my God, that's DB Cooper. DB Cooper's going to be involved in the show. And I was losing my mind about it that there was going to be some DB Cooper storyline in this.
but it
So
was
it
just
was
that one little,
it was a joke. They used it as a
yeah,
joke in an
a
episode.
joke. Oh, okay. I didn't know the reference of it. I just know the scene that they did.
Broke my heart, Brandon.
And they led with it as a trailer.
Yes, in the
Oh wow.
trailer, it was like it seemed like this was going to be.
And you
Uh,
got all pissed because you're like, it's a daytime. Oh, how dare they?
yes,
But it was a cute little thing, the wink and the nod, right?
I still
It
liked
gives
it.
it, yeah, it's still nice. Yeah, I like it too.
I'm for anything that can bring more publicity to this case.
Yes, yes.
Even if
Do
it's
another.
ridiculous, it gets more eyeballs on this, and then maybe there will
Hmm.
be someone who has a certain set of skills that saw that and now, oh, I'm going to apply that to this DB Cooper case. I think there is value in that.
Yeah, anything. You're right. Anything to get eyeballs. Like, which is why it's great that we have CooperCon. Let's get the media out there. The news shows up every year for CooperCon, right? Eric's working hard. He's not making money off CooperCon. He's just doing it for fun, right? Because you know how Eric is. He likes doing that. He'll take you to tea in a bar. He'll talk to the news. I mean, the problem is if you Google DB Cooper now, you get Vince Peterson. And it's like, ugh, no, it's not Vince Peterson. But because Eric that's Eric's guy, no one takes Vince Peterson seriously. And it's nothing against Eric. I love Eric. He took me to Tina Bar, drove me, bought me a beer. Like he was my dad. You know, here's a beer, son. Great guy. But no one takes that Vince Peter thing. Like Peterson thinks you're like on the way to Tina Bar, we're teasing him about the bed sheet. Like, and I think he understood because he did. We found out at CooperCon that Tom had already tested it and the bed sheet was no good. So he knows how to take a good ribbing. We're gonna bust your chops about the bed sheet and Vince Peterson, but it just sucks for people looking into it when they Google DB Cooper or they think it's Vince Peterson or people like my cousin that thought Uncle LD was Cooper because he saw an article
Yeah, I was just going to
that Marla did,
bring
you know.
exactly that up. Like somebody reads one article, and it always happens that something will go out into the news or run on this website. And then one of my friends who does not care about DB Cooper at all will text me this article, be like, "Hey, bro, I just saw this online
Yeah.
today. Have you seen it?" And it's like,
Bro,
"Yes, I'm
they're
well
doing you
aware."
a favor by sending you the link because you like DB Cooper, so I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna send you this link of how it got solved, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Or they'll ask me, "What do you think about this suspect?" And I know that they don't care at all what I have to say. They're just trying to be nice to me.
Well, like, oh, just to get, what do you think about Rekka? Just to let you talk.
Yeah, it's like I know you're a super hardcore Cavs fan, and I'm like, "So, Brandon, what do you think about the Cavaliers? How are they doing?" But you know that I don't watch basketball or care
I
about it at all.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Oh, the Cavs, they're a tough year. You know, LeBron left and all that. It's been tough. Thanks for that new kid we got. He's gonna be a good one. Oh, so and so got injured, and I don't know his name. Yeah, that happens a lot. What can you do? It's still appreciative, but it's like it's patronizing, though.
It is, and it's like almost mocking because I'm into such a weird niche thing that
Right. I
is
don't know.
DB
Are you making
Cooper.
fun of me? Right.
Yeah. Yes. It's like
You making
there have
fun
been
of the Cavs?
so many times where it'll come up like at work or a friend will bring something up. And the joke is always Darren knows everything about DB Cooper except the one thing you want to know. And half the time the person doesn't even know what to ask. So they're like, what's the one thing I want to know about DB Cooper? And it's like,
They
who
don't
is DB
even.
Cooper? Darren doesn't
Right.
know.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, then why are we talking to him?
Then why are we talking to
Yeah.
him? He doesn't
Shut
know
up. All
anything.
right. Let's move on to the next subject. How about the Cavs? Go Cavs. Right.
All right, speaking of
But
who
no,
is
no.
DB Cooper, Brandon, I'm going to give you two choices. I have
Okay.
all the knowledge in the world. I can tell you who DB Cooper is, or I can tell you the story of what happened. Which would you rather know? And you only get to know one. And the
The
knowledge of who he
story.
was won't tell you the story.
Oh, well, that's I'm going with the story because I believe if I know the story, I can reverse engineer, backtrack, investigate, and figure out who he was.
Nope, it doesn't work like that. You'll know the story, but you'll never be able to figure out who he was.
Oh, just be an anonymous person. I would know how he got to the airport, how the Tina Bar money got there,
Yep, what happened when his
what he did
boots
with
hit
the
the ground.
money, everything. But I just don't know the name.
Exactly.
Or I know the name, but if I had the
And
name, I could look him up. I could track down his family. I could harass his family, figure out where he
but none of
was.
them know.
This
So
is like a hypothetical,
yeah, so you get to know for a fact that it was Tony Garza. He pulled this off. But when you look him up, there's nothing.
but I'm not a, really. Am I not allowed to look up Tony Garza
No,
or
you look him up, but there's nothing. It said that
nothing?
he existed. This was his address. He didn't have any kids.
Ted Braden.
Yeah, exactly like Ted Braden. Except Ted Braden has some kids. Drew's done some work with that, but it wasn't like
Okay.
he
Well,
was a
I don't
great
know.
dad that kept his kids in contact.
I'm using it as an example of trying to Google somebody and finding no information.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, you look up
if it's
Ted Braden,
Tony
there's nothing.
Garza, I can't find. So I don't know how the money got to Tina Bar. I don't know how he got to the airport. I just know is
Exactly.
that this guy, or I could have the story of a random guy, may or may not be named Tony Garza, and I would know how he got to the airport, but I had no way to look up his information from that information. Like
Correct. There's just no footprint of him.
I would go with the story. Yeah.
You got to go the story more
Story.
than
The
anything
story.
else in
Yeah.
this case. I want to know where he was when his boots hit the
Yeah.
ground and
Yeah.
what he did next.
But if you asked him, where were you when your boots hit the ground? Would he know?
I don't think he would know initially, but it would just be like if you dropped me in the middle of the drop zone right now, I would eventually get somewhere and be like, "Oh yeah,
Oh, I'm on
I was
Route
like a half mile
83.
north of
Right.
Cedar Creek at such and such point." Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to a pool hall out here 10 years ago. But you have to walk and find a payphone. At least they had payphones back then, right?
Do you think that's how he got out of the drop zone with a payphone?
I don't know.
Because now you're talking about an accomplice.
I do, and I've been back and forth. I used to be pro accomplice. I was an accomplice guy, but
You seem like an accomplice
then
guy.
you're talking about loose ends and fucking it up because the accomplice, if he dropped him off at the airport and Cooper's can't get the stairs down, right? Oh shit, I can't get the figure out the stairs. He can't call his accomplice and be like, I think we're flying south. I'm gonna jump out at some point, and the accomplice has to go track him down somehow. Do they have walkie-talkies? The poor accomplice is probably pissed because this is a lot of work. He doesn't know where to go. And that's where you get the theory about the accomplice killed Cooper and took the money. But I mean, that's a stretch. But
See, that theory, I want to talk about that for a second
okay.
because it is interesting and also like the most frustrating thing ever. Because if that's the story, if it's a two-man team, and just like in is it The Dark Knight, the Batman movie with the Joker,
My
where
favorite movie.
he plans this heist and everyone eventually, once they do their job, they get killed.
Yeah, right.
And so if Cooper does the same thing where he's actually the number two guy in this, even though
Yeah,
he does all
Cooper
the
was
work.
the worker bee. Right,
Yeah. And then he gets picked up, he gets killed. That's why Cooper's never seen or heard from
right,
again. And then
right.
whoever has that money at that point, like the Cooper story doesn't matter because we'll never know it. Because
And that's the
Cooper
perfect
got put
plan.
into a wood chipper Fargo style
Yeah,
10 minutes
Jimmy
after the
Hoffa
heist.
style. Yeah,
Boy, I hope it
that
didn't go that way because we'll definitely never know the details.
We should still be able to find the parachute, though. Or no, that would explain why we haven't found anything,
I
right?
don't,
If the accomplice cleaned everything up. Well, how'd the Tina Bar money get there then, if the accomplice was involved to that extent?
well, because he put it there as an homage to Tina Mucklow.
No, because Cooper, the worker bee, lost that money, and the accomplice didn't know that he lost the money, and it eventually ended up on the container ship and washed up on Tina Bar. That still makes sense. So even that theory still works for my Tina Bar theory as well. Can't argue it. Can't, right?
Well, it's tough. I mean, if the whole accomplice thing is tricky because it's tough to see this being done without a accomplice. Because if you're really going to go completely solo on this, getting out of the drop zone is difficult because you don't know where you're going
Yeah.
to land. And it's not like you could be like, well, I parked a motorcycle over here and now I'm just going to walk to the motorcycle. That doesn't really work out.
Yeah, but it's like you're saying you could just stash the money and everything somewhere and walk. Eventually, you'll make it to land. You don't need an accomplice. I'm gonna make it to civilization, get to a motel, clean up, get some rest, eat, and then I'll go back after the it's died down and go get my stashed money and stuff. Like, you don't need an accomplice to pick you up if you're willing to walk a few miles from wherever you land.
Yeah, and if he had like a Creedence Clearwater Revival shirt on under his suit and a pair of blue jeans, like he's a completely different person all
It's a
of a sudden now.
disguise. It's a
Yeah.
disguise, right?
So they're looking for a guy in a suit, and you were driving home from work and you picked up a guy in a CCR t-shirt and jeans. Obviously, that
Yeah,
wasn't Cooper. He wasn't in
right.
a suit and tie.
That's why it wasn't Rekka. Like, because Cooper, when he landed, that's the first thing you do. You get rid of your clothes, what they're looking for. They're looking for a man in a suit. Get rid of that.
At the very least, ditch the coat and the
Yeah.
tie, and then just have a white button-up shirt on and have it be open. And that's a completely different look.
No, I would get rid of everything. I would be like Walter White faking a fugue state if I was DB Cooper back then. Or the jeans and the CCR shirt. Like, but Rekka, like, what is your thoughts on Rekka? I believe that Rekka was there. It was Rekka, like Osadic, like that's all legit. It just he's not DB Cooper. He was just there for some other shady reason. And that's why it works because he's the only eyewitness testimony. But Rekka would be wearing the suit, and which DB Cooper would not do. You would lose the suit upon landing. Rekka just happened to be wearing a suit. It's a coincidence. Do you think that's legit?
Have you read Skyjack?
Yeah.
In Skyjack, towards the end, he starts dealing with this guy who says he got out of prison and was essentially waiting for a phone call that night to be involved in this operation. And we're getting in some really crazy vortex stuff here, but
Okay.
like Bruce Smith talked about, like he believed the Rekka story also, but he didn't believe that Rekka was Cooper.
That's what I'm saying.
And so you
Yes.
do have, so if the Rekka story is true, you have November
It's a true
24th,
story.
71, he's
He was
landing in
there.
Clay
He
Ellum.
was there. Rekka was in Clay Elm, the cowboy story at the bar. It was Rekka that happened, but he
And so you
wasn't
also have
Cooper.
Jeffrey Gray with this guy who verified that he was let out of prison in time to do this on suspicious circumstances. So then there is like this vortexy puppet master, to quote Joe Weber, thing going on.
I miss
See,
Joe.
and you're shaking your head now, but this is what we're talking about, Brandon.
I miss Joe. Maybe she had the answers. How do we get the answers is the question. We still have Bill Mitchell. We still have Tina Mucklow. Is there any way to do hypnosis or what, like LSD or some, like, is there any way to access the mind using methods that we didn't know about before that's still real before they're dead?
Yeah, but you already poo-pooed eyewitness testimony.
Well, because of the normal human mind. You're right, but especially this at this point, you can't ask Bill Mitchell, does this look like him? No. But if you can go into the mind, then eyewitness testimony becomes more reliable, at least somewhat. Maybe he's not going to be like, oh, he's not 6 foot, he was 5'11. Sorry, got it wrong. Readjust your parameters. But he might say something like, oh, you know what? I remember him saying something about Akron or Lake Erie, Goodyear. Oh, he must be from Northeast Ohio, maybe. Nobody knew about that. Maybe they had a plant out there where there was titanium antimony that could have got on someone's tie. Any little thing. I'm just saying it should be looked into. And if Bill Mitchell seems to be open to it, he said at CooperCon he would be open to hypnosis. I don't know if he's open to us dosing him with acid, but why not at this point, right? Like, let's just do it.
You're a wild boy, Brandon.
Whatever.
On Rekka, you had mentioned you wanted to talk about whether Rekka could steer his parachute or not.
Oh, absolutely. Because he's fake CIA guy, right? Or special ops, or he is special ops. He is kind of a shady guy. I don't know exactly his attributes but yeah, back then the pull downs, he could have fashioned something, bat suit. If he really worked for the CIA, he could have had access to a prototypical jetpack that nobody knew about. There was classified information, and he jetpacked his way to Clay Allen, or he steered steerable parachute. All it takes is if a smart guy, it's physics, like the wind. There could have been a microburst that night that accidentally blew him northeast from the flight path right. Do you know
Are
what the
you a
weather
Rekka
was like?
sympathizer?
No, I think Rekka is a piece of shit. I just like the Rekka story because it just happens to land so well. He was there. He got into DB Cooper and tried to take credit for it because he knew he had enough that added up that made sense. So as a joke, as a lark, I try to make a make-believe scenario where Rekka could have steered a parachute or jetpack, or maybe there was a tornadic microburst that accidentally landed him in Clay Element. It really is legit. It really is him.
Right, back to
But
Occam's razor.
yeah, okay, right. I
All
give you that.
right. Is the flight path accurate? Speaking of Rekka.
I I don't know. I'm not a flat flight path guy. I have no reason to really doubt it. Um, and at CooperCon when Chris Cunningham and Eric Eulis were arguing on stage. It was very riveting, and like I get both sides, and I tend to agree with that. There's really no reason to doubt the FBI flight path, but I gotta tell you, there's a part of me that still is willing to subscribe to Eric's bologna sandwich theory. Like that could be real. Like someone got something wrong, eating the bologna sandwich, missed something. Then it's butterfly effect, like little things, telephone game, something's wrong. No one wants to get in trouble. I don't know. I don't really care about the flight path. I don't know enough about it to really speak. I would say that the flight path is accurate, but I give Eric's bologna sandwich theory, I still give it a modicum of hope, depending. if anything were to come out of it. But the money ended up at Tina Bar, and Rekka ended up in Clay Ellen. So how do you? Just kidding. That's a joke. But no, I don't know. I don't know about the flight path. I assume the FBI is legit, and it doesn't matter to me. There's so much wiggle room where he jumped. To me, it's more about wherever the flight path was. It's more about the pressure bump and the jump time. Was it 8:13? Was it 8:11? 8:14? And then
I'm
where
hearing as
could
late as
he have gone?
8:15 these days.
Oh, boy, that's a game changer then,
Oh yeah.
right? Because depending how fast they were going, right? 8:15 to 8:14 is a whole another stretch of land, depending with the way the wind's blowing. I don't know. Anywhere out there. I have no concrete opinion on the flight path or where he landed, drop zone, anything. He could be anywhere out there.
Do you think that if we tomorrow I found a document that has the exact flight path and the exact spot on the Earth Cooper landed, does that get us any farther?
Yeah, you should be able to track him down toot sweet from that. If you had that was real, this is what you had it for a fact. That
Yep.
boom, you could
Okay,
just
but
go
now
track him
it's a
down.
subdivision where
Okay.
Cooper landed. So
All
there's
right.
nothing there we could look at. So we have the exact spot he landed and the exact flight path. Where do we go now?
Yeah, the problem is back then you don't have traffic cams and ring
We're not
doorbells.
talking about back then. We're talking about right now.
Oh, right now? That would be
Right now.
easy then.
I
Oh,
discover this document. Here's the exact flight path. Here's exactly where Cooper landed. What is that? How does that move the case
oh.
forward?
Well, I thought you were saying if Cooper landed right now,
No, no,
we
no,
could
no.
just
Cooper
track him on
landed.
ring doorbell cameras. We could follow every step he takes. But okay, so back then that information is not as useful then, right? Where there's no traffic cams, there's no ring doorbells. Even if we know he landed exactly at the aerial store or whatever,
Right. What good does it do us?
yeah, there's no ATM. Yeah, maybe you can't send the dogs out there sniffing. That's too long, right? 50 years.
This is why I don't understand the debates about the flight path and drop zone. The drop zone, a little bit, I can sort of understand, like this is maybe where he landed kind of a thing. But the idea that if we know the flight path, that's going to help us more, that the flight path can maybe help determine the drop zone. But the best case use for an exact drop zone would be that we could walk around there and see if there's anything left. And if that is going to be a subdivision or it's a fish farm now, that
Oh,
does
like
nothing for us.
if it's private property,
Yeah.
like the Fazio's Sand Brothers property. Right, but no, we should be able to go boots on the ground, look for, you know, debris, find a All right. So if you knew the drop zone where he landed and you were boots on the ground, what are you looking for?
D
Parachute?
rings, buckles. I don't think there's going to be a lot left of a most likely silk canopy. Maybe
I
some
doubt he's
paracord. I don't
dragging
know
the
how
canopy.
paracord ages.
No, he's not dragging that with him. It
I don't
still would
think he's
have to be
taking the parachute
stashed.
with him. He's going to stash it. But
Yeah,
even if he's stashing the parachute, what's left 50 something years later?
all of it.
No way.
Yeah, it's not going to disintegrate. A
Oh, it
parachute?
definitely is going to disintegrate.
No way.
Dude, leave something outside in the Pacific Northwest where it rains every day and see how long it lasts.
Okay. I will do that next time.
Next time you're in Portland or Seattle,
Yeah.
bury a 70s era parachute
Yeah, I'm
and then
gonna
check
bury it
back on
on
it
Tina
50 years
Bar.
later.
Oh, be perfectly intact. Oh, it's a little worn. It's a little weathered, but it's here. It still exists. It's not 800 years later. You can't look for footsteps.
Does Cooper survive his jump?
Of course. Yeah, there's only a few people that are in the death camp, I think, at this point. That's Larry Carr, Jude, and Amanda. But there's no reason to think that. Like Drew Beeson, Marty Andrade, all that stuff about survivability. Like my brother was airborne infantry at Fort Benning, and I asked him what he thought about that. Did he survive? And he says, of course, he had a parachute. That's what they do. That's what parachutes do. Same thing about the money being spent. That's cash. That's what cash does. That's what you do with, that's how it works. Parachutes, you survive a landing. That's why they exist. There's no reason to think that he died. They never found a body. He had a parachute. He had many parachutes, right? So there's no reason to think that he augured into the ground or whatever. I think it's silly and ridiculous to consider that.
I'm 100% with you, my friend, because in my mind, there's two choices. He is a no pull and augers into the ground, or he successfully gets away with it. And for no pull augering into the ground, obviously he jumps out of the plane, never pulls the ripcord, or has some sort of malfunction that where the chute doesn't deploy at all, and then he just pile drives into the ground. That doesn't seem likely. If there is a scenario where he pulls and lands in trees or pulls and then there's a malfunction, that Cooper is found as soon as the sun rises. The second the sun rises, we find this injured dude in the middle of the woods attached to a parachute.
Yeah, he
Case
got caught up,
closed.
broke his leg in a tree. He's writhing in agony because he broke his leg landing in a tree. Sun comes up. He's there withering away. Neighbors have been complaining. We hear screaming from the treetops. Go look over there. Right. That's the only way that he would die without a no pool. But the
Right.
no
And what
pool,
percentage of people jump out of an airplane with a parachute and do not pull the ripcord?
right, it doesn't make any sense. The
Yeah.
no pool makes no sense at all. So then you're back to the guy dying in the tree with a broken leg, screaming.
And that
They would
guy is
find him.
found, yeah, that guy
Yeah.
is found November 25th at 7:08 a.m.
He's found by midnight, I bet. But yeah, that's he he got out of there. He got out of there.
Was his bomb real?
I don't think so. I just I know you had Mike Vining on. What did he say? He said no, it wasn't
He
real.
said no.
And you've been back and forth,
I've
right?
been back and forth on it. I
Yeah.
started out 100% not real, and then I started to lean towards real, and then as soon as I was like, okay, I'm 75% real, then I had Mike Vining on, and now I'm back to 50-50, which is the most vortex thing ever. I've
Yeah.
been researching this for a decade, and I'm 50-50 on whether or not it was real.
And I don't know why, because it's what was it Ryan was saying? Like, you have a pistol. There's no reason for it to be real. It's a great gimmick. It's a great prop, right? It doesn't need to be real. It's a liability. Honestly, it's volatile. You don't want that messing up with your plans. It's better to just say you have a bond and oh, I have a pistol in case anything goes wrong. It didn't need to be a real bomb if he had a pistol in his mystery bag.
I
I
know, but
don't
he
un
never displayed the pistol. The
because
pistol
he
is
didn't need
different
to
because,
because the fake bomb worked.
and the fake bomb he can keep secret. If I'm at a bank holding a pistol, there isn't someone that looks at me and says, "Oh, that guy's okay." It's scary. If you just see a guy with a briefcase and only the stewardesses know
Keep it
what's in the
calm.
briefcase,
Mhm.
other people are comfortable.
Right. But if they didn't believe his fake bomb, then he would move to plan B, which is bring out the pistol. But the fake bomb plan worked, so he didn't have to do it. Because there's no reason to have a real bomb if you can just bring a gun. Might as
The
well have a
reason
fake
to have a
bomb.
real bomb is, oh, dang, this is not going according to plan.
Yeah. That's possible. I don't see Cooper as that kind of like suicidal. I think I see Cooper as he knew he was going to pull this off, not a crazy man who was on the brink of, I might have to blow myself to smithereens and kill all these people on this plane if I don't get $200,000 in negotiable American currency.
But even back to Mike Vining, like Mike Vining doesn't believe the bomb was real. But when I asked him if it was a real bomb with 8 sticks of dynamite and you built that bomb, would you be comfortable jumping out of an airplane with it? He was like, "Oh yeah, of course. That'd be no problem."
Oh yeah, that's why he took it with him. Even if it was real. Yeah, that means nothing if it was real or fake. So if you're saying it was real, yeah, of course he's going to take it with him. If it was fake, of course he's going to take it with him too because he doesn't want any evidence. And he didn't take his tie or his cigarette butts, but he took everything else. So bomb fake or not, he's still taking it with him.
Do you think the tie was left there on accident? Because he wouldn't have known about DNA in 71, so the cigarette butts don't matter. I mean, maybe potentially a fingerprint could be lifted off that, but doesn't seem likely. But the tie is really the only thing he left. Do you think he left the tie on purpose or it was an accident?
Uh, I, if it was his tie, I think it was an accident. I think when he was getting the parachute on, jerry rigging the money bag, right? That clip-on tie's in the way. He knows it's going to be in the way when he jumps too. He doesn't want that shit flapping in his face, but that's probably why he has the tie clip too, right? But at the moment, he's like, get this off of me. Let me get myself hooked up, and then forgets about it. Doesn't realize he left it there because he's too busy. His mind is too overcome with the situation, the reality of like the magnitude of what he's about to do. And he knows he doesn't want the tie to deal with anyway. And realized should have put it in his pocket, should have thrown it in the money bag. Just the pressure, just he just missed it. Or it wasn't his tie at all. He was never wearing a tie, and that tie blew off from the guy in front of him when they unboarded the guy in front of the seat was grabbing his bag and accidentally lost his clip-on tie, and it landed behind him. And they assumed that was DB Cooper's tie, but it was really you'd have to ask Ryan about the manifest, but whoever that guy was in front of him, or it was from a flight before from DC to Minneapolis or whatever they did, and then during the opening the stairs, the wind blew and it blew this tie that someone left earlier, and it ended up landing on top of the seat where Cooper just happened to be. I don't know. I'm not putting too much stock into the tie any which way.
That's interesting. What if you had to put a percentage on it? What percentage would you say it was Cooper's tie versus secondhand or somebody else? What percentage is this is Cooper's tie?
Well, I don't think it was a thrift store tie. I used to think that. Like, yeah, it could be his tie, but what if he got it at a thrift store? No, I'm over that. It was either Cooper's tie or it was somebody else's tie that they're missing. So percentage, was it Cooper's tie? I don't know, 90%. I guess I would have to say still.
Okay, okay, I do like that answer because you
Yeah,
told a little bit of a wild story.
I
So if you
know,
would have
but
said 1%,
I'm
okay.
still real. I'm still a realist. Yeah. I'm just saying, you never know. It could have been someone's tie from the earlier flight or the guy behind them. We have to look at the video of when they all got off the flight. Um, because also they all look like DB Cooper. You ever notice that when you watch that video when they're all getting off the flight in Reno? Every one of them looks like DB Cooper. They all fit the sketch. But now I'm thinking I have to go back and see, is anyone missing a tie? And maybe they forgot they didn't even know they were wearing a tie because everyone wore these ties back then. And it could have been Gregory's tie or who, we'll have to talk to Ryan about
The
that.
number of people that have shown me a picture of Bill Radazak or Harold Anderson in sunglasses and said, obviously, this was Cooper, uh,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
infuriating. Do you think the
Uh,
crew was in on it?
no, I don't.
Why not, Brandon? The crew's obviously in on it. DB Cooper never existed.
No, there's no reason for the crew to be in on it. They all had a good gig. They had a good thing going. Everyone was living the dream. They didn't want to bring this upon them. Hey, we all have a good thing. Let's make us some crazy shit that can easily be disproven for no reason, and we're all gonna have to deal with this the rest of our life. No, no, they were not in on it. Well, you know what? Maybe Alice. Alice might have been in on it. I don't know.
Do you really think there's a chance Alice was in on it?
I think maybe Flo could have even been in on it. Alice and Flo could have been working together.
What the heck are you talking about?
I'm just kidding. Of course
Okay.
they're not. Of course they're not in on it. No, it's ridiculous. No, Tina is a hero. Yeah, no, he wasn't. He didn't hide on the plane and all that stuff. Yeah, no.
Why do you think it is that somebody will see DB Cooper and then it's unsolved? And it's like they come to one of two realizations without doing any research. The realization is A, he hit on the plane and never jumped, or B, that the
They were
crew
in
was
on
in
it.
on it and Cooper
Yeah,
never existed.
I don't know. I can't believe that's what people. There, that's no. There's no way that's a common top two realizations that people come to.
Are you kidding? Why don't you go on your Facebook group and look at comments by new posters? It's going to be, hey, I have a new theory. Cooper never existed in the crew is in on it. Or, hey, I
Yeah.
have a new idea that no one's thought of. He never jumped out of the plane and hid on it.
Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Let me message Ryan Burns and ask him about it. Yeah, and then Ryan Burns will be like, "No. Bullshit. Eliminated."
Well, that's what Ryan will say in his head. In reality, he'll type out a
Oh,
two-page
but
kindly worded response.
right, but I get what you're saying. The people may say these two things, but that's not the real consensus of the Vortex community.
Oh no, those are people that watched one doc or read the
Yeah, and they can come
Wikipedia
on and
page
say that.
and then
They're
go to
going
the
to learn
Facebook
real
group. Yeah.
quick that that's not real. And now they catch up. But yeah, no one actually thinks that he hid on the plane or that it was all a ploy with the flight crew. Like the only people that think that are the people that come in day one and then realize they're wrong. So we shouldn't give that any more credence because like even if you do think that, they do learn the next day that they're wrong and they get over it. I think, right?
I think
No
so,
one's holding
yes.
on to that, right?
But the
No
only
one.
one that people do hold on to is McCoy. For
Yeah.
some reason, you're like, oh, there's one guy that did a super similar skyjacking.
Um,
Well, he's obviously DB Cooper. And like I actually like the first Dan Greider doc. Did you watch Dan Greider's YouTube videos?
yeah, yeah.
So the first one, they're called Deep Family Secrets by Dan Greider.
Deep family secrets.
Deep
Yeah.
Family Secrets. The first
Yeah.
one is actually pretty good. I like it. I don't really agree with the conclusion of that. But I enjoyed it. I like DB Cooper content. The second one was a little bit much. It was a little bit extra.
Well, it was bullshit because he was supposed to do that from CooperCon. Because remember, he was on your podcast and he was saying he was going to do the thing and he was releasing the first part of his doc and the second part was going to prove everything, but the second part made no sense and he's just like, it's McCoy. Don't ask any more questions about it. And it made no sense. Yeah, that like I don't know. I don't know. He went deep down on McCoy. Like,
And there are so many things that can disprove McCoy. And I know even in the vortex, we like to sort of shit on the FBI, but you look at the work the FBI did on McCoy, and boy, they looked into him. And I know I've said this a trillion
Yeah.
times, but the FBI had McCoy and Rackstraw in custody at a certain point. And if there was a single thing that pointed to either of them, they would have brought it up.
They
But
would
they
have jumped
only
on it.
came to the conclusion it's obviously not these guys.
It's right. And they wanted it to be them.
Yes,
They would have loved
definitely.
for it to be them. So the fact they're saying these are the main guys, and we're telling you it's not them. We don't know who it is. Everyone should have been like, oh shit, it's not McCoy or Rextra. We're looking in the wrong place. But then, oh, McCoy was a parachutist, and Tom Colbert with the more Rextra, forcing Rextra down everybody's. And it's like, no, it's FBI. If you want to shit on the FBI for not doing a good job, that's fine. They didn't do a good job because they didn't figure it out. But what they did figure out was it's not McCoy or Rextra, and
Well
you got to give
said,
them credit
Brandon.
for that. Yeah.
What they did figure out was that it's not McCoy. That is 1,000,000% well said. What do you think of this fact that within like 18 months they released two sketches that are wildly different?
I don't think the sketches are that wildly different, as you say. It's just we have a sketch. This one didn't work. It didn't jar anybody. It didn't click. You know what? Let's go back. Maybe what about this? Maybe a little more hair this time. Maybe whatever. Maybe someone will see this. But it's so futile, especially back then. It's just they could have made 100 sketches that all look different, hoping that someone sees something. It's whatever. It's a white guy. It's a middle-aged white guy. It could be anybody.
No, you're
They all
wrong.
look the same.
He has an olive or swarthy complexion. How dare you?
Allegedly, that's eyewitness testimony. We don't know that to be certain at all. We don't even know how old he is or how tall he was. So you can make a bunch of drawings, sketches. Nobody knows. Not that's gonna hurt or help, but what can you do? I don't think it. Yeah, you could make another big. What is it? Bing,
Bing Crosby and
Cary
Cary Grant.
Grant, or what do we call it? Clooney and Jude Law, or make another celebrity sketch of Cooper. Uh, Tom Hiddleston. Uh, yeah. Who's the Loki guy? What's his name?
Uh, I think it's Tom Middleston.
Tom Middle. Yeah,
Middleston.
that guy.
I don't know.
Whatever. He's
Someone
the new
someone who
sketch.
knows is going to be
Yeah.
screaming at their
Right.
radio right
Yeah.
now.
Oh
Like,
my God. Yeah, Loki. Yeah. Tom Middlestat.
do you which sketch do you think is more accurate? You have to bet your rent money on this.
The
Which sketch
Dracula
is more
sketch.
accurate?
The
It's not the
Dracula
Dracula
sketch.
sketch, you clown.
You don't know.
That's
That's what
true. It could
Flo
be.
said. It could be. Yeah, just because it's a little cartoony doesn't mean that's not more accurate. We're not looking for Bing Crosby out there. Oh, the more cartoon Dracula-esque, everybody's a suspect, you know. Although I don't know how many people looked like that Dracula guy back in the day. I don't know. I think Bing more than Cary Grant.
Bing was the
Just the
first
hair.
sketch, but Cary
Yeah.
Grant, like the thing about that one is they actually made it look more like a person. The Bing
Yeah.
Crosby sketch is it's vague. It's like
Well, that's what Rekka or Osadich was saying when they interviewed him. They're like, he's telling them the story about Rekka and identifying him. They showed him the sketch of Cooper. He's like, this guy looks like an alien. Like, that's not who I saw. He saw Rekka with the flat top and the mustache. The Bing sketch looks like an alien to Osadich. So is that what Tina and them says? Like alien? That's my only problem is the Bing sketch might be a little too alien, unless he was an alien, right? He could be an alien.
Could
It's a
be.
whole nother, could be. It's plausible, perfectly plausible.
What do you think it says about his age? Because if I told you, hey, I just heard about this wild skyjacking, you're picturing a 24-year-old.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that it's an old man. I believe the age is over exaggerated. I don't believe he was that old. Um, I'm not saying that it could have been Rackstraw or something like that, but or my dad at 19.
So you
Or
think
who's the
maybe
other one?
48 is exaggerated, but 28 is too young.
I give a lot of leeway to the height and age. He could be 28, 5'4", or he could be 6'3", 50 years old. I leave it open for I don't know because people don't understand how old someone is on a or how tall someone is on a plane. If he's got shoe polish in his hair, or it's the smoke in general. Like I don't know how non-smokers did this on planes back then. This tight cabin. You ever be around someone smoking a cigarette now? It's a pain in the ass. You're
Well,
bothering me.
non-smokers back then were smokers. They just didn't have a cigarette in their mouth.
Yeah,
Because
they just
I've
they're
thought
used
about
to
this
it.
too, because your dad is blowing cigarette smoke at you while you're having breakfast when you're
Yeah,
9.
that's how it was, I
Like,
guess.
that's so crazy.
So I guess you get used to it. So even if you're not, like, knowing that's why you were allowed. Like someone lighting one cigarette on a plane, I'm gonna fucking choke you to death for bothering me. You start lighting up your seventh cigarette, that's it. I will beat you up in that plane. How dare like you are bothering me. You're not even chewing gum. I will beat someone up for chewing gum sitting next to me, let alone smoking cigarettes in my face.
You know, it'd be real interesting. What was there, 36 passengers or something like that on that plane? What percentage of them smoked cigarettes? I would,
80?
I'd love to know. I think 80% is a safe guess.
Yeah, I mean back then,
Maybe
right?
more.
It's but then that's what I mean. Like everybody, it wasn't just DB Cooper smoking cigarettes. Everybody on that plane was smoking cigarettes. 80%, right? So then you can't see, right? How old was he? Well, I didn't really get a good look at him because there was a
Because the cabin was filled with smoke.
haze of smoke, right? And we were all
That's true.
nauseous.
We've never
Like,
talked about that on the show, but there
yeah, it's
would be a lot of smoke in that cabin.
yeah,
Even though they've
it's
got
not.
the air circulating in there, you
Oh yeah,
still
that
have at least 20 people smoking at a time
back then that
on a
in the 70s,
727.
yeah, it's gonna be a mess. And the people that didn't smoke, they're nauseous. They don't know what's going on. They're delirious. They're getting sick. It's smoky. Everyone did the oh. Yeah, it's he was swarthy because we couldn't see through the haze of smoke to he looked this old, but he wasn't, or he was this tall because he was on an airplane, like Andre the Giant on an airplane, like yeah, that whole thing, like the funhouse aspect. And now you're looking through smoke, and people are breathing in smoke. And now you're eyewitnesses, and you're nauseous from nicotine. That yeah, those it's weird. Those airplanes back in the day, just they didn't even care if you had guns or bombs on the plane. So
No. And you're bringing your
I
own
don't.
parachute aboard? Oh, that
I
doesn't seem
that
weird at all. Come on
yeah,
on.
that's my only problem. Like I would have brought my own parachute. Like I think about bringing my own parachute every time I get on a plane. Like, oh, I don't need to worry about how the seatbelts work because I got a parachute. Everybody should have a parachute on an airplane in case it. No, no, seatbelts and oxygen. No, everyone should have a parachute. Everyone should have a jetpack on an airplane just in case. So I don't. Why would you get? He's the only one that didn't take his own parachute, right? of all the copycats, anybody?
No, I believe the copycats with real skydiving experience, they brought their own, but
Yeah,
all
like
the
McCoy and Hetty and
and then one of the dudes like asked for instructions with his parachute, which is a hilarious move.
well, did Cooper have to ask for instructions to lift the stairs? Is that real?
He did. Tina showed him. Yeah.
Tina had to show him, but isn't it just a simple lever? Like, shouldn't he have known that if he was like an expert airman? Something about that never sat quite right with me.
Well, this is something I've brought up before. It's a weird knowledge set. And I've sort of in my head explained it like a race car driver and a race car mechanic. Like the race car mechanic might know how to do everything on that
Yeah,
car, how everything is set, what everything is, the displacement of everything, and the number of splines on this output shaft. And the driver of that car might not know how many cylinders the motor is, but he could tell you the front corner feels a little bit soft. And they both know that car super well, but with a completely different knowledge of it.
right. One has the ability, one has the acumen.
Right. One sort of has a mechanical knowledge and knows theoretically how it works, and one knows how to operate it and kind of theoretically might know how it works.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And I think that happens with a lot of that kind of thing. Like if he could be a pilot, but a pilot's not going to know how to jump out of an airplane parachute at the speed and not get fucked up on the way out, and or a parachuter might know a little bit about wind resistance but not know how to fly a 727. Is there a connection? Little here, little there, little column A, column B. I don't know.
Well, it makes me think like, why does he have that knowledge, but not the knowledge of how to lower the stairs? So why did
That's
he know
weird.
the exact flight specifications for an optimal jump for what the CIA and Boeing was doing,
Yeah.
getting people out of those planes? He
Mm.
knew that, but he didn't know how to lower the stairs.
Especially if it was just a simple thing. You pull the lever.
Right,
Is that
but
accurate? Is that how
also
you did it?
I've seen pictures and I don't want to say it wrong, so I don't want to
Okay.
say anything
Okay.
basically. But it the planes that the CIA were jumping with, I believe, were modified quite a bit. So it could be that when he's on this commercial
Like
one
the Air
now,
America
yeah,
stuff.
that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Or even in Vietnam, it's a
Yeah,
very
right.
modified plane. So now he's on the
Yes.
civilian version and it
Yeah.
looks completely different.
It's
It
like,
would be
whoa.
like that race car driver who drove, a Corvette race car, getting into a regular Corvette and being like, okay, how do I turn this on? Where's the button to start it? Because it's
Oh,
like
it's a
the
it's a
race
push.
car was so different. I know how this works, but I just don't know where the new button
It's a
configuration is.
hybrid. Yeah, it's a hybrid. Uh, it's an electric, half electric vehicle. Oh, well, I don't know how to turn it on. Push the button. Right. Even though he knows how to drive the car and other people know how the cars work, if there's not a confluence, it might not mean anything. So it's just a guy that knew enough and it was like, I know everything except how to open these stairs so I can get out of here. And that
Right.
could
Or
be
maybe the
real.
plane just looked a little bit different than the one that he was used to. That's what I'm thinking about. Like, how did he know exactly how to do this? But
He
then there's
didn't.
weird details where, oh, how do I lower the stairs? He knows he can jump from them, but he doesn't know how to lower them.
I'm sure he panicked because I think he did know what he was doing. But when the stairs didn't work, it was like, wait a minute, how do we open these stairs? He had like a freak out. Even though it was a simple fix, it's just the lever or whatever, like Tina helped him or whatever the story is. But I'm sure that was a freak out. Like, I thought I had everything, but shit, I can't even figure out how to get out of this plane. The stairs, that was my plan. Open the stairs, and I don't know how to do it. And Then once he figures it out, he tells Tina, beat it, right? Let me wrap up my money. Lost a little bit, right? It flew to Tina Bar, but he did make it out of those stairs. So he was an expert, but not an expert. I don't know.
Do you think he had military experience?
Yes, everybody did. Like when I vetted my dad and my grandpa on this, they're all military. My brother, airborne infantry. I vetted everybody. So yeah, and especially back then, that's how people knew how to jump out of planes because for the military. Yeah, like the Elsinore ghost is a fun story. Maybe it was him, but for the most part, I feel like DB Cooper knew how to jump out of a plane. He just had to get creative with how and when the depart. Like I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak if he. I believe he was military, regardless. Maybe he wasn't military enough to pull it off without practicing some more, or maybe he just did and wing it like Marty or a couple of the other copycats. I don't know. It's it's not for me to say. I can't speak on that
Why is this case still unsolved?
because nobody's found any $20 bills or a parachute or a plane ticket in their grandparents' attic yet. And we haven't had access to the DNA. Like, just give us the tie, give us the parachutes, and let's test it and figure it out. And then you have to go one by one. You got to get forensic genealogists to take on the case and look up all these profiles. And it is possible, but it's just we're not there yet. No one's willing to like give up the goods. Obviously, they didn't give Eric the tie. They're not giving Pat and Tessa and Arlene the parachutes, the shroud lines, which I don't know why not. And it's just the next suspect that dies when they're going through their personal belongings, if they don't have a diary talking about it or a bunch of 20s and a plane ticket, we eliminate that suspect. It's about going through people's attic and getting DNA access to what we have. That's how you solve it.
Will this case ever be solved?
No,
That's it? Just no?
no, because we're never going to get access to these things that we need to solve it for whatever reason. You can't have the parachutes. You can't have the tie. Don't worry about it. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right? For whatever reason. I mean, maybe someday we could solve it, but no. If I had to give a date, a prediction, if we all did a pool on what year will it be solved?
That would be
I would
interesting.
say, I will say the year 2046. What about you?
That seems so far away.
Well, Eric says it's this year or next year. Or no, Eric said by the 60-year anniversary. So is that 2031?
Yeah, 2031.
Over under 2031? What do you think?
Oh man, I hate to say it, but I'm on the over.
Over, yeah.
Over.
It sucks. I know. It's a bummer.
If I
But
was
hey,
betting, that's what I would say.
yeah,
But
you'd
if
have
I
to.
wasn't betting under, God,
Well,
it's
what
so
if,
it's so terrible because in the vortex we know that it's an over, but we don't want to say that.
yeah, okay, but then it depends on the money line. Let's say, all right, you can take the over, but you got to lay minus 300. You got to lay 3-1 odds. You willing to lay that juice, or would you rather take the under and get plus money on it? Where's the value? I get your 50-50, it's over, but once you start moving it, how far do you move it? Where is it exactly? I say 2046, 50-50.
That's too far out. I can't keep doing this show
Yeah, but it
for
doesn't matter
22
because
more
we're
years.
we're all gonna be robots by then. You don't know about that? The singularity, we're gonna be robots, and then we can figure it out through AI and deep access to alien technology.
Okay, so it just has to be post singularity.
Yeah, yeah, post singularity. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
Mark my words, post
Okay,
singularity.
no, it feels much closer.
Yeah.
Okay, so the singularity happens and now the case is solved. What happens to the vortex?
We hold parties at Tina Bar, like campfire, like campouts. It's like Woodstock, but it's everyone pitches a tent on the sand and we all burn like fake 20s for campfires and we just celebrate Cooper and we still argue about his offspring and who was involved, or we get Brian Ingram's grandchildren out there and bother them. Um, yeah, we still celebrate the story best we can. The DB Cooper Fantasy Football League will be strong and going forever. It's its own zeitgeist that'll live forever. It doesn't matter if we figure out who he is or not. We're still going to celebrate the adventure and the mystery and the camaraderie, the community, the science, everyone coming together. And it's just fun. We'll never let it go.
Do you think once we know who Cooper is and we can put a name to him, that he stops being a legend?
Well, it depends what the name is, because you're gonna have half the people saying, "Oh, this guy's a legend. He's badass," and then you're gonna have half people looking up his old DUI records and be like, "What a piece of shit." You know, he was on the sexual registry or something, and we're gonna look into him that way and smear, and then did he have an accomplice? And then we're gonna look into that person and how did the FBI not find this idiot? Who knows? It's going to go on in one way or another. It's not going to stop. If we all find out DB Cooper was Skip Hall, there you go. Everyone's not going to be like, oh, okay, that was fun. Bye, everybody. Gonna go back to my normal life and not think about this anymore. They're going to go, okay, how did he get to Portland? What's going on? Or who is how'd the money get to Tina Bar? It just will never stop.
At what point would we be satisfied?
We, as the Vortex community, be satisfied with an answer or a suspect answer.
When would the vortex be satisfied that we've fulfilled our mission? Like we did it, high five.
Never, never. You don't. No. I mean, we could get close. It could be Ted Braden, and we all high five, and oh, we're gonna go harass his family and find his attic with the 20s, and we're all gonna loot it and share the 20s, but we're still not gonna know how it got to Tina Bar. We're still not gonna know why Ted Braden did that. It'll never be satisfied, no matter what. You could have an answer after answer. There will just be new questions. I don't think it'll ever be satisfied, I guess.
We're about to find out who DB Cooper was. It's one of the known suspects. And now it's time for you to gamble.
What are the
Who
odds? What's the money line on whom? Is this
it's
like
all
the Kentucky
it's
Derby?
all
Is there a
even
big
odds right now.
underdog?
It's
Oh,
one of the
even?
known suspects.
It's even money on everybody?
It's even
Same
money on
price?
everybody, but with what you know, who do you think is most likely to be Cooper?
Even money. Braden. It's Braden or Skip Hall for me right now.
Both great choices.
Or Kenny Christensen or Rekka. Those are my two dark horses. that I'm not letting go yet. Or McCoy. All right, that's five. All right. Yeah, I'm not allowed to do five.
You have McCoy as a dark horse?
Yeah, I still think we don't know. Like, I don't know. No,
A Kenny Christensen dark horse is also interesting.
I like Rekka as a dark horse is more of a joke, but it's interesting just because I do believe he was there. I don't think he was Cooper. I think he just happened to be there.
I'm not eliminating
Funny.
Rekka 100% in my mind because I do think there is something weird about that story.
It's just a coincidence. He was up to something else shady. He doesn't it just worked. Braden, Skip Hall, Christensen, Barb, not
Okay, let's talk about Braden and Skip Hall real quick.
Barb.
Give me your brief best reason why it's Braden and best reason it's not Braden.
The best reason that it's Braden is because that's easy work for him. That's so doable and not even don't even think twice. Like he could just pull that, like that's his wheelhouse. And he's got 100 reasons to do it. Worst reason for Braden, I guess it's that he's too short, but I don't care about like I'm telling you,
And blue eyes, I guess.
blue eyes. Give me a break. No one, he had sunglasses on. He had Solarama sunglasses. They're very rare, by the way, on eBay if you can find them. Solarama sunglasses.
I
Apparently,
heard a
that's
rumor
what
that Ryan bought all of them before we could get them.
I think Chris Cunningham has a couple pairs too that he's stocking up on. And it's the same eyewitness thing with the age. Like blue eyes, you don't know. You saw 2 seconds, then he put his sunglasses on. So I don't really care about eye color. I don't care about height. I don't care about age. I shouldn't say I don't care
Well, if you
about
don't care
height and
about
age.
height or eye
I gotta,
color, then Braden's a perfect suspect
that's,
because really that's all
he's
he's got going against him. Well, that
right.
we
That's what
can't
I
put him
mean.
on the plane.
Well, you can't put anybody on the plane. And Braden could have easily looked 6 feet tall on a tiny 727 air cabin, especially when he's threatening people. Like I'm 5'9", I guess. If I'm on an airplane, yeah. If I told you I was 6'3" with my boots on,
And I
maybe you
felt
buy that.
threatened by you.
Yeah. And I'm also 24 years old. Maybe you buy that. Maybe you start. Oh, I don't even know how old this person is. Was he 24? Was he 43? Was he 6 foot? Was he 7 foot? Was he 5 foot?
All right, now let's do Lauren Hall.
Yeah,
Best
I that's
case
what
and
I'm.
worst case
Yeah,
for Lauren Hall.
best case is kind of fits the profile as far as like the guy that would do this, have a reason, whatever reason, if we don't understand, he would could do this. It makes total sense. I love the JFK connection. I know you don't like putting the connections between people
I actually
because
do
it's
enjoy the
so
JFK connection in this one.
it just kind of works. Like it's obviously not the Zodiac or it's not Frank Moore. Like it wasn't Jean Benet's killer that but when you can make a connection like that and you can make it work and make sense, I start going, oh, okay, let me look into this. Looks like it, changes appearances, right? He has kind of that Maynard James Keenan type where he could just change his appearance from day to day. You don't know what his look is. Like there's one picture where he looks like me. And I'm like, that looks like me. And then the next picture, I'm like, oh, that looks like the his fake Latin guy with the mustache, the Cuban freedom fighter. Doesn't look anything like me. But it's the same guy. How old was he at this point? I don't know. What was he into? JFK situation? Okay. I want to know more about it. So I don't know if that's just getting me down a rabbit hole, but I like it. I like the connections like that if they make sense. So, all right, best case for Lauren Hall is
I'll give you a best case for Lauren Hall
okay.
because this is one that really impresses me. Is if I gave you a picture of 100 DB Cooper suspects. Here's 100 of the most popular suspects. There's a lot of real white faces in there. A lot of real white faces. And one thing that they is always brought up is he had an olive complexion, swarthy, possibly Mexican or Native American ancestry. Not necessarily that he was a Mexican,
Or Italian,
but that there was something going on where he didn't look
but he had that about him. Like that's just how he was. He was like that sort of jack of all like what's the term I'm thinking? But you know what I mean? Like he could look like a white guy or this guy
right. But he's the only
depending.
one where I'm like, okay, there is that with his skin because Lauren Hall went by, I think it was Lorenzo Pasilla
Yeah, yeah,
was his one of
Lorenzo.
his aliases that he went
Yeah.
by when he was like
The
doing
Cuban freedom fighter.
yeah all the
Yeah.
protester stuff.
Yeah.
And if I told you my name was Lorenzo Pasilla, you would look at me and be like, that's not your name.
Right.
That doesn't make
Right.
sense. But he was able to do that and pull off that name.
He could pull it off. Right.
So
But
there
that
was
doesn't
something
mean
about
he's
him where he
DB
didn't.
Cooper.
No, it
Just
doesn't. But I
so
really
what's the number one thing that he could be DB Cooper because he had olive skin and a mustache?
no,
Well,
no, there's obviously several other reasons why he could be.
Kennedy. That's my problem. I love him so much as a suspect, but I don't understand the motive. How old would he have been in 1971?
Oh gosh, I know this. It's
45?
sure, let's go with that.
I bel so okay, yeah, that's the eight, but like what does he need the money for? That's my I think he could totally have done it. I just don't understand why he particularly would have done that.
Is that the best evidence against why he would have done
I
it?
guess that's the best evidence against. Yeah. There's no, but that's easy to fight. Like, oh, he needed money because he was in the mob. The mob, he owed the money to the mob and he had to do this. He's like, I have the skills. I have a special set of skills or whatever. And he can make a quick 200K, float it to the mob that he owes with his special set of skills from his past life and then be gone. And then maybe he botched it. Maybe the mob killed him. Then you got to look into where he came from. Santo Trafficante down in Cuba, right? Italian mafia. Skip Hall was involved down there with Castro and all that. Bay of Pigs, Kennedy assassination. Maybe it was Trafficante. Maybe it was Castro. That was he connected with them? I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass with that. But he's just the type of guy that's like from a Denzel movie or The Equalizer or like Liam Neeson, right? Special set of skills like or Stallone, where he might have a Jason Bourne type contract and had to do the job, right? He's gonna do the job. I don't know.
Do you think there's any sort of conspiracy or cover up in this?
Mm, no, it's definitely not from the crew or the FBI. The only conspiracy or cover up would would be if it was some crazy ass conspiracy with Lauren Hall and JFK or Jack Ruby, and maybe it was Lee Harvey Oswald's brother that was Cooper. But no, like not a governmental cover up, but because of what? Why? For for air regulation, safety? Because it, I don't know. I can't think of a reason that there would be a cover up. I think it was a guy that had a very special set of skills through whatever means, whether it was a good idea or bad, he chose to act, and whatever happened to him happened. I don't think it's a government conspiracy cover up type of thing. I just think we don't know who it was, and no one's able to figure it out. It's a bummer.
It would be nice if somebody could just figure this out.
Well, isn't there people out there trying to do that?
Are you going to do that?
No, I'm not. I'm not investigating the case. I'm just trying to stay up to date. So when my when my cousin says, "Oh, it was LD Cooper," I just saw an article, I can at least say, "No, it was not. You're wrong. I know more than you." But I'm leaving it up to people like Ryan Burns and Eric Eulis and Tom Kay and Chris Cunningham and Pat Boland to really get to the bottom of it. And then they will let me know when they figured it out. I'm not going to be able to figure it out. If I was able to figure it out, I would have already done that by now. So obviously, I'm not able to do that. So I'm relying on these smarter people to keep me in the loop. And if there's anything I can offer, which are usually criticisms, but that's good for them. They need to know, like, you're wrong about the money not being spent. Like I've argued with Chris, he's still, or you're a Freeburg guy. Like the money got spent, and everybody that thinks the money didn't get spent is wrong. But I'm not going to go out of my way to keep yelling at people about that. It's just you people will come across that naturally as you look into the case. And eventually, when we figure it out, it's not going to be because of anything I did. It's going to be because of something somebody smart did or somebody with connections, like Chris Cunningham with his DNA lab connections. And we'll figure out. I still think we need to do an Ocean's 11 style heist on the museum to get the parachute that they won't let us have with the packing card and the shroud lines. We all get together. I'll swoop through the ceiling tiles while Tessa distracts the security guard, and Chris suplexes the other security guard, and Ryan yells at the bystanders, and then you could swoop in and go under the lasers, and we'll get the parachute out and we'll take it to Tom's house, and Tom will use his fancy equipment to test the DNA, and we'll figure out who Cooper was, and then we'll do Ocean's 12, and we put the parachute back, and they never knew we were there, but we have all the information. That's my fantastical version of what could happen, but I'm just a
Occam's razor.
dreamer. I mean, it's just Occam's razor. Yeah. Well, who was it? Who was it that made the Occam's razor analogy? Who was it? The Santa Claus analogy. Like, if kids are asking about Santa Claus, you could say, well, think about what's most likely, that Santa Claus is real, or that billions of adults across the globe are involved in a worldwide conspiracy and keeping it secret so none of the kids know. Come on. Obviously, it's real, right? So, what is Occam's razor? Who's to say? I don't think Occam's razor has anything to do with DB Cooper. And I don't want to hear like forget about I don't even know who Occam is. Like, what's his first name? Or is that his last name? Who is it, Jeffrey Occam? Or is it Occam Johnson? Or
I
who
thought his
made
name
up
was
that?
Occam Razor.
Oh, his name just happened to be Razor? That's cool.
First name's Occam's,
Uh,
last name Razor. It's just a theory
well,
by Occam's Razor.
yeah, it's just he smoked smoking weed. He's like, you know what, guys? You know what I just thought of? Think about this. I just thought of this. What if the most reasonable explanation was the most plausible? Oh my God, you guys. Oh, whoa, bro. Thank you, Occam or Mr. Razor. Thank you for that insight. We're gonna curtail our DB Cooper research based on your epiphany that you just had. And I wouldn't count on it. I think we need to find some $20 bills in an attic, some DNA.
Okay, back to something much more serious. Is Clara Barb Dayton?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think why not? It adds up. I mean, I don't know anything about stylometry. Really, I'm not well versed, but to me, unless you can disprove it, I like what Marty's saying. Like, yeah, there's no reason to. I could totally see Barb doing shit like that. I love that. I'm in it. Yes. I Since we're doing percentages, I'll say 94%. What about you?
I say I'm 87%.
Okay.
The only
Pretty
doubt
strong.
I
Of
have is that those letters were postmarked from New York.
course. Why wouldn't they be? That's how you do it. I
I'm
could, I
just,
sent I sent my parents a postcard from CooperCon, postmark from Seattle or Tukwila. That's where I was. I travel, especially when you're trying to throw people off. You send them from different areas. That was all part of her plan. She's a pilot. She can fly around anywhere she wants. She's not going to mail them from the foreman's house, you know?
that would be a little suspicious if it came from the foreman's house.
Yeah, she's got to get creative. And it never came back to her. So she succeeded. I wish Gunther was alive to talk to.
Oh, me too. If I could historically have one Cooper interview, other than Cooper himself, of course.
Well, he might still be alive.
Gunther, I can't decide if it would be Gunther or Himmelsbach, because Himmelsbach is obviously like, of course I have to talk to him, but Gunther, I want to
Yeah.
understand him. I want to
Yeah.
have, I want to do that interview in person, of course, and talk to him, and I want to get a vibe from him that he's smart and he believes it and he's on top of it, or that he's bullshitting or he's unsure about it.
And it's your judgment that you glean from him. That's
Yes.
what you're right. You don't know. That's why Himmelsbach, you don't need to bother because you know
No, he did
how
a
he
bunch of
is.
interviews. I
Yeah, like
know
you
what
don't
he's
need to
gonna
talk to him.
say.
But Gunther, yeah, gosh,
Gunther, I'm super curious. And
that would be
it's so it's so vortexy, the whole Gunther story. And that
so,
the whole thing itself is a mystery.
I wonder if you talk to him, if he would be like, I didn't even think much about it. It's whatever. I didn't care much. Like he didn't like we made more about it than in his mind it was, I guess. If that makes sense. Like he would be like, "Oh, I remember the story I was doing about the thing, DB
No, no,
Cooper."
no, no. He clearly spent a lot of time on this.
I know, but would he be able to really dig in and like give like a real conviction type testimony to, or was he just like, I was just writing a book trying to make it work? I don't know. I think he would be more. That's why you have to talk to him. You have to talk to him.
Why aren't there a bunch of interviews with Max Gunther
I
out
was
there?
gonna ask you the same thing. Like, it's hard to find interviews with Bill Mitchell and Brian Ingram. Like Tina Mucklow. Oh my God. Try to find a real interview with Tina Mucklow. Can't. I'm assuming that's the only reason you're having me on the podcast is because you're just waiting for Tina to get back to you. You're running out of
I
people.
have never reached out to any of the stewardesses.
Well, that's okay.
That's not my move.
If they wanted to be on, they could find you and let you know.
Absolutely. If they want to reach out to me, my
Yeah.
email is open.
Well, Tina's doing the movie, right?
She is involved in that movie. I'm curious because like I was worried about it with the whole writers' strike and everything. What was going on with that? And there was an actors' strike briefly too, I think, something like that. But yeah, I can't wait to see that movie.
Yeah,
I'm
because
curious the angle
I
they're
was
gonna take.
talking with my dad about DB Cooper, and he's like, "Well, here's my thing. I don't understand why there's not like a big mini series, Netflix, high big budget movie." And I'm like, "Oh no, no, Tina Mucklow, she has a non-disclosure. She has signed up for this movie, and it could be we don't know what it's about." And I had nothing to tell him. So there are people out there that are like, "Yeah, just give us a real big budget movie." Is that what the Tina movie is gonna be? Or is it gonna be I don't know. What's it called? Not if you
Not if you
understand.
can understand. Which
Stupid.
do we have Cooper saying that line anywhere?
No, 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 never, right? You never said anything like that. Miss, I have a bomb. Miss, you better look at that note. Something like that, maybe.
We don't we have loose quotes from him because we don't have any direct quote from him.
Yeah, and if we do, who are we taking that off? Flo, Tina, they might be wrong. We don't know what they
And
say.
Flo and Tina are telling someone else and they're radioing that in, and that's what we have.
Yeah, and then Radizak like it's the whole telephone game. I don't know who said what. I it's whatever. I don't want to hear Ryan say, "Oh, Tina said this," or Cooper said this. No, nobody knows except Bill Mitchell. But if he's not willing to do hypnosis or drug-induced psychosis therapy, then we will, or time travel, if we can get a time machine. And like you're saying, we show up on the plane, me and you. He's in the middle seat, right? Cooper's in the middle seat. You're on the window, I'm in the aisle. We're like, "Hey, buddy, what are you up to? Can you buy me a drink?"
I'd love a bourbon and soda. What
Yeah.
about you?
Oh, me too. Yeah, yeah. Make it three, Flo, or Miss Flight Attendant or whatever you called him. Yeah. Make it a three bourbon and sodas back here in the back row. Us crazy white guys, except for this weird, older, olive-skinned, creepy gentleman in the middle. Don't worry, we'll keep an eye on him.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden we'd be like, "Are you guys seriously all going to smoke in here? What are you doing?"
Oh, we're like, oh, oh, stop it. Oh, open the window. Open the aft stairs. Maybe that's why he wanted to open the aft stairs. Just get some breathing room in there. Get that cigarette smoke out of there so I can get a breath of fresh air.
All right, Brandon, let's get you into some trouble now.
Okay.
The true crime world tends to lean heavily female,
Yeah, no.
but this case is mostly male. In fact, it's like 90% male, at least. That's might be generous. Why is that? Why does this case appeal mostly to men?
I don't know because I'm a true crime buff and I understand that I'm in the minority, that it's mostly like when I listen to podcasts, true crime podcasts, the commercials will be like hair color and stuff for women. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not your target audience." Why? Why is that? Why? you're just assuming women who care about hair color are into murder. And I think it's because the true crime, when you speak of true crime, generally it's murder mystery. And women are scared of murder and they feel vulnerable and they want to know what's going on and let's catch the bad guys. And they also are puzzle solvers. Who's the serial killer? Oh, let's figure it out. It's a puzzle. And guys, I thought were as interested because even though I'm a true crime fan, I hate, I'm not into I can't listen to the family members cry about their daughter that got raped and murdered. I don't want to hear the 911 calls about the murder. I'm in for the puzzle and trying to find who did this. And I don't know what is it about women that they they kind of almost steer towards the gore or the to me it's all the same. A missing person, right? Missing person. Missing someone lost their watch. To me that's a mystery. Let's get on it. True crime, unite. Let's find this watch. Where could it have been? How could it have been lost? It just happens to be that people get murdered, and I think women take that more personally and they're sensitive to it, so they're sharper to it. They're more invested in it with ju injustice, and that's good. But I don't, I don't like that gruesomeness. So with Cooper, it's more of just a mystery. It's a puzzle. No one got hurt. No one's dead. There's no dead kids, no raped kids, anything like that. It's just who is this old guy? Nobody knows. Let's figure it out. No one has to get weird about it. And I don't know why more women aren't into it. Maybe just because no one got killed. That's like not worth their time, you know? I don't know. They're too hardcore. They don't bother with anyone that wasn't murdered. So it's just up to us.
Brandon, is there anything I didn't ask that you wanted me to ask?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Um,
How dare you?
what do you think about the the Oakville Blobs having something to do with Cooper and the Tina Bar money? Could that have been
No, I
why
don't
the
think either
diet?
of those things have anything to
Okay,
do with each other.
okay.
And by the way, I think like 17 people will know what you're talking about
Okay,
when you said the Oakville Blobs.
okay. All right, Russell, leave that one out. Okay.
No, leave that one in for sure.
Okay.
For the 17 people in Washington that get that reference,
I just have a theory that maybe the blob, the gel, the jellyfish, or whatever your personal theory is, covered up the bills and it protected the bills so the diatoms didn't get in till late, and it could explain some of the Tom K's research. I didn't know if anyone had more scientific input on that or opinions, but just thought I'd
Occam's
throw it out
razor.
there. Yeah, okay. Call we'll call Jeff or no, Mr. Razor. Is he still alive? How old is Mr. Occam Razor? When was he born?
He's definitely dead.
Oh, older than Cooper?
Because otherwise, it'd be like a trademark phrase and we wouldn't be allowed to use it.
Do you think Cooper's alive? If he is alive, like how
No,
old would
I
Cooper
don't
be?
think he was alive.
What's your age
I
guess for
only
Cooper?
I only know he existed for 5 hours, and in that 5 hours he smoked 7 cigarettes. He's not alive today.
Well, how old was he when he did that?
I'm saying I'm saying he was 46 years old.
So he that means he would have been born in
25?
1925.
25 and 46.
So he's not
Is that
100.
right?
He could be 100 years old out there. That's what you're saying? Living off his good. I mean, if you make that kind of a score, you're living the good life, right? He's got the best diet, best nutrition, best medical care. He could be 100-year-old millionaire living out there being like, "Yep, made my score, invested it in Google, and I just everyone takes care of me. Nobody knows."
Do you think he's alive?
No.
If you had to guess what year he died.
Well, I have a theory that he died 2 weeks after the hijacking in a car accident, just a freak thing, or some other act like just ha just happened to die. People die in accidents all the time. What if? Why is he different? Maybe he pulled this off, but then 2 weeks later, before he could actually go back to Tina Bar and dig up the money or whatever, he died in a car accident on his way back to Tina Bar to dig it up. You know, who knows?
Similar to the
And that's why
accomplice
nobody
theory.
knows. That's why nobody knows. That's why his family doesn't know because he died tragically, happened to be 2 weeks after the hijacking. And what can you do? Who's to say? It's tough.
Yeah, that's along the same lines as the accomplice killed him.
Very similar. Yeah.
All right, well, if I'm real upset with everything you had to say today and I want to complain, is there somewhere I can find you online?
Yeah, I'm on the DB Cooper mystery group on Facebook.
All right, last chance. Anything else, Brandon?
No,
All right, well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
thank you for having me. This is a real treat. Thank you.
If you want to chat with Brandon, you can find him on the DB Cooper Mystery Group on Facebook. If you have questions, comments, theories, or you know who DB Cooper was, hit us up. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us dbcooperpodcast@gmail.com. We've got links for it all in the show notes. Thank you to Brandon Arnold for making me laugh. Thank you to Russell Colbert for making me cry. Thank you to Darren Osadich for letting us rock out to his music. I'm Darren Schaefer, and thank you for listening to the Cooper Vortex.
Here's a story we all know about a man many years ago. Hijacked a plane, so we were told. Then he jumped into the cold. As a burn and a cigarette is in the air, the stage is set. Polite and kind, the people say it's time to make his getaway. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. Rolled up in his coat built tight. He's got enough to change his life. Where he landed, no one knows. But from his tale, a legend grows. Was a cold, dark, rainy night. As he walked, he saw light. Held his cash close to his side. Just needs to catch a ride. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. Soaking wet down to the bone, but for a place to use the phone. Little cafe outside of town. He walked in, he just sat down. Met a man with a cowboy hat who told a friend right where he's at. Into the night he disappeared, and from that night a legend reared. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. 40 years, the secret's out. The story has been told. D.B. Cooper's done running now. He was 80 years old.